Good morning, everyone. Tonight is a People's Party rally in Mississauga, and the link is in the description. You can check it out. It's at 2360 Lucknow Drive. I'll be there, and Mr. Bernier will be there introducing our immigration policy plank. So that should be a lot of fun, and I'm looking forward to it. I hope to see you there. And I'm interested to see what Mr. Bernier says. Here is a Globe and Mail piece. It's reported a couple of hours ago, and it's pretty interesting given the context and the excuses here. What's going on with China is the context, and the excuse is the election coming up. Be careful what you say about China. But this is concerning, and you should be aware of it. Here we go. Globe and Mail is reporting. PMO asked former envoy David Mulroney to clear public comments on China with Ottawa. The Prime Minister's office asked former Canadian diplomat David Mulroney to check with the Foreign Affairs Ministry before he makes future public statements on Ottawa's China policy, citing the, quote, election environment, the ex-envoy says. The request came in a telephone call from a senior Global Affairs Canada official last Friday. Mr. Mulroney, who was ambassador to Beijing between 2009 and 2012, said he received a call from Phil Thopil, I'm going to go with that, Assistant Deputy Minister for Asia Pacific at Global Affairs, who informed him he was passing on the request from the Prime Minister's office. The former envoy, who spent his career in the foreign services, is frequently approached by journalists to comment for stories, even more so as relations between Canada and China have deteriorated since Ottawa arrested a senior executive of Chinese tech giant Huawei Technology Company Limited last December on an extradition request from the United States. He has argued forcefully for a major rethink of Canada's approach to China since the crisis began, arguing Canada must not return to business as usual. In recent weeks, he has also cautioned against non-urgent business travel to China and suggested Canadian tourists avoid, quote, a repressive detention state. He said Mr. Thopil cited this as being among the reasons for the call. Mr. Thopil told Mr. Mulroney last Friday it was important for Canada to speak with one voice these days because of frayed relations with Beijing, but also the October federal election. In this time, he said, of high tension and in an election environment, we all need to be very, very careful, Mr. Mulroney recounted. He said, quote, I've been asked by the PMO, before you comment on aspects of the China policy, it would be good if you called in and got the latest from us on what we're doing. Mr. Mulroney said the request made him very uncomfortable, and he refused to comply. He said he felt that implicit in what Ottawa was asking was the premise that he would revise or temper his comments after running them by the ministry. Quote, I am deeply concerned about the way foreign policy is being managed and don't wish to be silenced or co-opted, Mr. Mulroney said. He added any effort to discourage Canadians with expertise in foreign relations from speaking freely is fundamentally an undemocratic idea. The Globe and Mail asked Mr. Thopil for comment on Tuesday, and the query was forwarded to Foreign Affairs Minister Chrystia Freeland's office. The government did not deny the call took place or suggest Mr. Mulroney had mischaracterized it. However, Ms. Freeland's office and the Prime Minister's office distanced themselves from what the former envoy says he was told. Quote, our office would not have directed the public service to say those things to a former ambassador, said Cameron Ahmed, Director of Communications to the Prime Minister. Adam Austin, Press Secretary for Ms. Freeland, echoed this, saying neither the Prime Minister's office nor the Foreign Minister's office would ever attempt to prevent any former Canadian diplomat from speaking freely and publicly. The two spokesmen declined to explain on the record why a global affairs official would ask Mr. Mulroney to run statements by the department before commenting publicly, why Mr. Thopil said he was passing on a request from the PMO, or why the senior bureaucrat would cite the election environment. And it goes on to explain further, but that's concerning. He doesn't answer the question, essentially, and it gives kind of spin here, but it's very, very concerning. And going back to BC politics for a minute, this is a story I touched on yesterday, touching on Jessica Yaniv and other things happening with this person. This person is trying to continue to get permission to rehost a topless pool party and further other things. And apparently, according to the Post Millennial, and I'm only going to go through this to remind us of what's going on for the next story. But according to the Post Millennial, a 15-year-old alleged victim of Jessica Yaniv has spoken out, and this only was posted 12 hours ago, so it's relatively up to date. It says, update at the top here, Jessica Rempel, and a Twitter handle, the young woman who Yaniv allegedly engaged in inappropriate sexual behaviors online while she was between the ages of 14 and 15, has confirmed she has filed a child exploitation report. So there's that. But here's the Here's the part I wanted you to know about. A young woman has come forward with serious allegations of abuse against Jessica Yaniv. Yaniv, a male to female transgender, has recently risen to infamy for the Human Rights Tribunal suits that she has taken out against 16 estheticians for declining to perform waxing services on her male genitals. While the suits are ongoing, a publication ban on Yaniv's name and the content of her case and history was lifted during recent hearings, allowing details of her disturbing past to come to light. 20-year-old Jessica Rumpel of Squamish, Washington State, has disclosed the details to the Post-Millennial of her encounters with Jessica. Okay, and there's an article you can read there, but I wanted you to know the waxing thing. And here's Morgan Oger. And Morgan Oger, I hope I'm saying that right. I think I am. That's what it says. Morgan Oger is the vice president of the BC NDP. And so here's Morgan Oger's website. And just here it is. It says Morgan Oger is a founding member of the Law Union of BC. She serves as vice president of the BC New Democrat Party and ran for public office twice. And I'm telling you that because she is a public political figure, and this is her comment on this whole situation. So on April 21st, here's a Twitter question from Bitch Lasagna, and they say, I genuinely hope that and wish it were true, but I couldn't disagree with you more strongly when you implied women don't have the right to refuse Jonathan Yaniv's request to have his testicles waxed. And her response, Morgan Oger's response, is, the question is more complex than can be addressed on Twitter. No one has any right to force someone else to do something. Everyone has a right to expect service free of discrimination. Okay, and so she's saying people should have service free of discrimination, but no one has a right to be forced to do something. Fast forward to today, or to July 19th, so that's Friday, and there was a response. So these are from April, and April is when the trial and things were happening, I believe, because the publication ban was in place during that time, and now the publication ban is lifted, right? So here's a question, and the conversation has continued from April and then into July, and I just want to highlight this. So the question and answer, okay? So the question is, expecting people to be forced to do something they don't want to do, they don't want to, doesn't in any way advance the cause of trans women. Honestly, are you so unwomanly like that you don't see it? It's not nice to feel forced to touch male bodies if you don't want to. Why force women? And Oger says, we are all forced to do some things we don't like in our work. Grow up. And I find that an interesting position for somebody in the NDP to take. Is it workers' rights or trans rights? Or I'm not sure what the motivation for that tweet is, but I find it very interesting. Interesting. Something to note, right? Is that who you want representing you in the NDP? Because I feel like this is a big issue, and I feel like perhaps this is a tone-deaf response. So that's all for the second show this morning. Check out the peoplespartyofcanada.ca. Maybe check out the immigration rally tonight, and have a wonderful, wonderful day. Thanks for watching, everybody.